Oh, my brother.
Sure, man.
Let me welcome you back. You know what I was thinking, Lempani? I think this show should be yours. I think you you should be my co-host, eh?
Yeah,
Because
so
you're always here, yeah?
I'm the
I
regular.
should give this studio to you. Because you're always here.
Yeah, I'm the regular here.
You're a regular.
And I'm providing numbers, right?
Yeah. My man, you're doing an amazing job. Because of you, we managed to at least show some head out there that we exist, and yeah, we appreciate that so much.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother. Anytime.
Yeah, brother, how was the last interview? How was the reception?
Yeah, the last interview was very amazing, I would say,
Mm.
and I was very happy with the quality of the video itself and how it managed to reach people. And I was at some point not easy with the impact, but I had realized that it made a really huge impact out there. Yeah.
Yeah. For someone who don't know who Limpani is and you're sitting out there, Agasman Mieketsi Limpani. This is a life coach today. Last time you were here, you're not a life coach, right?
I was just a speaker.
Okay. He's a speaker. He's a president of Power of Mind. Beautiful organization, by the way. I love the work that you guys do there. So he ran this organization in Botshabelo, impacting people in the community of Botshabelo. And he's also a teacher, right?
Yeah, by profession.
Yeah. Let's start with a game. If you had to choose speaking and let's say you had to do only one, speaking or teaching kids in class, which one would you choose?
Speaking, definitely, most definitely.
What if your employer is looking?
No, most definitely.
Speaking, right?
Speaking. I can speak to
You would
save
say
my
that's
life.
your purpose.
Yeah, that's what I'm born to do. I can
Mm.
speak even from my sleep. So it's something that I do without any hassle. Something that I do without putting much effort. So it comes natural. So that's I believe and I'm convinced that that is my purpose in this world.
Bro, like I know there are so many people that are actually searching for purpose out there. But before I get to that question about purpose, I want to know, like, do you get people's feedback, like telling you that, yo, you spoke this to me and this is what is happening? What are some of the, distinctive feedbacks you've received from people?
Yeah, I do receive feedback from people, and some come with testimonies to say, I had encountered you in this particular function, and your words, your speech impacted my life this way. And most often it will be like transition from their way of thinking before and then their way of thinking after, and the growth that comes with that. So, and to be honest, that's what makes me happy and want to do more because of that feedback that I get from people. And I have mentees that always give that constant feedback to say, our sessions changed my life this way. And so far, so good. They are making progress that I can even see on social platforms, that I can even see when I meet them, that they are actually making a huge progress. There's one now who's established few businesses, and the one of donuts, it's booming. And it is because of the encounters that we had. So, and she came with the feedback to say, this is how far I managed to go post our sessions. So such feedbacks, yeah, they really put me at the place where I can say I can do more.
I love that so much, bro. For someone who's seeking for their purpose, I know you and I have discussed a lot of things, and I've come to know how your speaking career started. But I want to know, like, for someone who's watching us right now, who feels like they are purposeless and they are seeking for their purpose, where do you think they should start?
I think purpose starts with self-discovery. Know who you are first. because it will be difficult for you to know your purpose or to be convinced of something that you can do while you don't know your identity. So I think they should discover their identity, who they are, and then they must go straight to their tree. Their tree will be able to guide them to establish their purpose. Because the only thing that you have to do, you have to decide on your purpose. So yeah.
I do wish this become more of a conversation than an interview. Therefore, I will give this as an official question. At this age, what are some of the great insights that come with this age when you look back, when you look at this age that you're living in, the things that you have done, the things that you have succeeded on, failed on? What's the greatest insight that you have made up for you at this moment in time?
What I can say now, or the insight that I can give, is that at the end of the day, you need to show up for your life. No one is coming to save you, and no one is going to do it the way that you should be doing it, or no one is going to give it to you on a silver platter. At some point, we can talk about. I'm going to talk from my experience. You know, I'm a product of a grandmother. You get so. Growing up, I knew that no one is coming to save me. Only myself that can save me. So that on its own, it managed to put me at the place where I had to choose between lifestyle and my dream. And I had to go for my dream because I knew with my dream I can achieve a lot and I can change life for myself and I can be a better person. So at the end of the day, what I can also give to your audience out there is that you respond better to life when you have a vision. So you respond better to life if your response is vision guided. So what you see through me is the guidance of my vision. I'm out there, I speak for days, I can speak for days because everything that I do is vision guided. So at the end of the day, also forgiveness is key. In everything that you do, you must forgive. The first person that you should be forgiving is yourself. And then you forgive people who did wrong to you. Yeah.
You grew up with your grandma. Where are your parents?
A good question, Ish. I don't like, okay, but now I'm sharing the story a lot on my platform. But at first, I was not comfortable with sharing the story. I grew up with my grandma, right? Because my mom passed on when I was in the primary school. We were doing something like grade 7.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then growing up, I didn't know who's my father, where he's coming from, his family or anything. So in my life, I grew up knowing my grandma and my uncle. And I used to refer to my uncle as my father. And that's how life has been to me.
May your mom's soul rest in peace. Did you have a relationship with her?
No, we didn't have that relationship. Because remember, the setup was I was staying full time with my grandmom, and she got married to the other person. So that so basically it means ke ngwana wa nkgono wa ka. Yeah.
How did the whole thing affect you as a child?
As a child.
Grade 7, I think you are 12. Wait, I'll always get this wrong. I think you're 10, 11?
Yeah, age around those ages.
Yeah.
You know, as a child, every child, when you grow up, you want to have your mom and see your mom. And you want to have your father and see your father. You want to get the tempo of their love. Like how their love will look like or feel like.
Mm.
So I never got a chance to have that. And, you grow up with that void to say, you don't, or when they refer to their fathers, you just look away because you don't have the same sentiment with them. And I will always use my uncle as a scapegoat. I will always, when you talk about your father, I will always bring my uncle to the context. And that's how I grew up, hiding from the real feeling and the real trauma that came with that setup. So, and unfortunately, that cannot go away.
It doesn't go away?
It doesn't go away. It doesn't.
The void?
The void, even today, is still there. But you need to learn how to live with it. And you need to undergo a healing process.
Would you say the reason you took a profession that heals somebody, which is speaking, because if you're a public speaker, if you're an inspirational speaker, you're trying to give someone hope. Would you say like that's how it actually became a result of your childhood and stuff like that? You remember like the times when you needed to hear some courageous words, some inspirational words. Would you say like that's the reason why you chose the path?
Yeah, and I think I relate more to people from that base because every time when I share my story, people can relate to the story. And given the current circumstance in South Africa, whereby most of young people, they grow up without their fathers being present in their lives, even though they are there, but they are not present. We have actually, I think we should declare that as part of crisis that we are having as a country, whereby you would find that most of young boys, their fathers are not present in their lives. And we can see true tracks. Actually, that it is the reflection of the situation that we're living in. When you have high track abuse. So it's a reflection of what we, even myself, I think I could have been in that position if ever I didn't have a grandmother that I'm having.
Or someone that you look as a father, which is your uncle.
Which is my uncle. So I think I could have been in that position also. Because the guy played a very important role in my life. Because he could, he's still modeling the life that I want. He's someone that I rely more to, even when life is not treating me good. He's the first person that I call. He's the first person that I text. He's the first person that I talk to when I have problems. So that my uncle plays a very important role in my life.
You're saying the pain doesn't go away or the void doesn't go away. How do you neutralize it to a point that you are able to do the next thing? Because I had Ukhurekile, which is the UFS president, UFS SRC president. He was telling me about a victim mindset, that it's easy for someone who had it hard, that they can just hold on into that and say, therefore, I didn't become this. I'm not going to become this because of this past situation that was so much neutralizing and stuff. How do you then put yourself in a position that even though the void is still there, but you're able to do the next thing that maybe it's going to inspire someone else, or maybe you're doing it for your own benefits? If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the art to that?
I think first thing first, you need to forgive yourself. That's where you start. First thing first. The situation is here, but you are not the cause of the situation. So you need to forgive yourself. And then move.
I love that, bro.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Move from forgiving yourself to forgiving those who did wrong in the past. And it won't come easy, but forgiveness is a key in the healing process. And one of the things that I always tell people is that some of the reasons that you can use for failure today can lose meaning after 5 years. You cannot blame it to, I cannot blame it to me growing up without a father for failure.
Mhm.
Life provided, or opportunities were there for me to choose and make it in life.
Mm.
So it is only the matter of how do I approach life and how I want my life to turn out to be. So you need to also get to that level to say, okay, this is what is happening in my life. I don't have a father, I don't have a mother. But though my father died 2 years back,
You finally met him?
I finally met him, and then he died actually a year
Oh,
year
that's
ago.
crazy.
Yeah, we met in 2 years, 2 years back.
Mhm.
And then a year later, after I discovered him, and then he passed on.
Oh, that's
I
crazy.
always say the guy died twice in my life.
Mm.
Died during my birth, and then he died actual death after I discovered him. So
How was the pain of those two deaths? Is it comparable? There's a song by Tupac. Sorry to intrude.
Okay.
There's a song by Tupac, Dear Mama. I think there are lines or lyrics where he says something like, my dad died and I didn't cry. And he doesn't say necessarily my dad, something like that.
Yeah.
But my father died and I didn't cry. How could I cry for a stranger? Something like that.
Yeah.
If you know the song, you can listen to
Yeah.
it. There's a line like that. Yeah. How was the pain of the two deaths? Was it comparable?
Definitely not.
Which one was painful most?
The first death where I was
No way.
yeah. The absence was too loud.
Yeah.
You get, but the second one, I can just say I went to bury him, but he definitely appeared as a stranger to me. But later, because I was too angry to can give him chance, later I had a bit of regret for unforgiveness, because if I think if I had given him a chance, maybe to try to build a relationship, I could have been in a position of knowing him a bit better. So now he's a complete stranger because I never allowed him to my space. And he tried. But because of anger and because I was still frustrated and furious to say, this guy, what bothered me most was he knew. It's not the fact that, or it's not a matter that he didn't know that he has a child. He knew that he has a child, but he never cared to go and look for that particular child. To my surprise, he even told his wife then to say, "You must know that I have a child somewhere. You mustn't be surprised if someone comes and claims that they are my child." So the situation frustrated me a lot because I have encountered a lot of challenges that forced me to go and look for him. And I still believe even if you come and say, I'm your father, it's fine. I was going to be fine. I say, okay, this is my father, sure. But now, me having to go out and look for him because now life is showing me flames, it was something else. So I was angry for his absence, but now I'm also angry because I had to encounter terrible things so that I can be able to go and look for him and find him.
Bro, like I love where this conversation is going. You know that I run a power shop, right?
Yeah.
So I see males or men almost every day, and I gotta tell you, 99% of my clients is just like the black dudes.
Yeah.
You know, so this is a typical story. It's a common story that I hear every day.
Yeah.
I want to start this segment from here. To people right now that are raising that child that grow without a father, could be due to rejections, it could be due to death, it could be due to maybe parents' politics. And this is a boy child. What do you think they need to do to support this guy to grow up and become someone like you, in the community, someone that's bringing a positive change. There was, I don't know if I should talk about this, but hey, if my safety it's at risk, you'll know that I've lived the way I believe. Yeah, if my safety is at risk, you'll just know that I live the way I believe. So it's all fine. Ket Matlala tells the story about his upbringing. The mom was albino, and the mom was raped by someone who believe if they sleep with an albino, they can get away certain thing. Yeah. This is a public knowledge. It's something that he speaks. And I heard, So fast forward, we get to this moment where he's a businessman, but it seems like his credibility is questionable in the society. Yeah. He's associated with drug cartels, it's death, killings, and all that. You can be that person, allegedly, if I have to put that, where you're doing well, you have these businesses, but you are slowly harming the community where you are living in. Yeah. Or you can be like you. I'm sorry, I gotta put this. You can be like you. I don't know your dark dealings if you have any, but as far as I know, you don't have any. You can be like someone like you who's running a legit business, who is trying to make sure that people live from his energy. People heal from his energy. People get inspired from your efforts and all that, right? You can be a person like you. So I'm trying to now get back to the question I was asking. How do you, what's the support? How do you raise this child? What are some of the things that people around this child should be cautious of in order maybe for this child to can at least have more chances or probability to be someone that's bringing a positive change in the community?
Those people, they have to double their responsibility in dealing with that boy child or dealing with that child, that kind of a child.
Example?
You need to extra love the child, because this person has a deficit of love, basically, given the situation. So, and what I realized my grandmom did was to love me twice.
Yeah.
She loved me from the point of being a grandmom, but also she had to come down to loving me from the point of being a mom.
Hence, it was not easy for you to come to the public and differentiate that she's my grandma, she's not my mom.
Yeah. It was very difficult because
I remember you said it on the first interview, actually.
Yeah. So I saw her doing it very well. When I need a grandmom, I can still go to her.
Nice.
And then tomorrow when I need to speak to my mom, I can still go to her. And I also saw my uncle loving me twice. I saw him loving me as an uncle. And then he later came down to love me as a father. And most of the time, he would refer to me as my son. You get, so it was very difficult for me to can differentiate.
That's a privilege,
yeah. So hence I'm saying, those people, they have responsibility to double the effort when dealing with that particular child. And one of the things that they have to do and they have to master is modeling. Because that particular child is vulnerable to models. You grow up without a proper model in front of you, you die. You're definitely gonna die. So one of the things that they need to master is modeling. So I saw my uncle modeling the fatherhood, modeling the manhood, the way I want to see it, or the way I would want my child or my children to see it. And I had fixed my eyes to him. I saw him achieving things that I want to achieve. I saw him becoming the man that I will soon want to be. I saw him becoming a family man in front of me. So I know and I have seen how a family looks like, how a caring family looks like through him.
Perfect family with a father and the mother.
With a father and the mother. I saw it through him. So he modeled that very well for me. So they have to do those two things. Those are the ones that I can talk about now. They must double their effort or responsibility in loving that particular child. And then they also must be able to model the life in a certain way to that particular child.
Yeah. Let's go back to, I want to ask this question this way. I've done this interviews. I think I've interviewed around 80 people now.
Yeah.
You remember we started online, right?
Yeah.
People that I see in the community that are doing well, there's always something dark about them. Dark in a sense that they have these traumas, whether they're coming from a childhood, whether they are rising in their contemporary lives, but there's something that it's like doesn't give them absolute happiness. But then when you see on the other side, maybe in terms of performance, they are like you, like they have like the most popular organization in the community. They have charisma, they have their career, they are doing well. But there's this thing that is coming from their childhood that keeps on, like you're saying, it's not something that you can get over it. I want to ask this question. Are you happy with all that you have done, with all the things that you have achieved, accolades, positions, the cars, the car, right?
Yeah.
Are you
soon to be cars?
Soon to be cars.
Yeah.
Man, I give you that life. Yeah. Are you a happy individual?
Very difficult question to ask. It's a very difficult question. Very, very, very difficult. But I will answer it.
What makes it difficult?
Because people, I've been living in deflection. I've been living for so many years. I've been living in deflection.
When you say deflection, you mean like you've been living sort of the life that is not yours, or what? Like, or avoiding the things that you're supposed to. I don't have a fact checker. Can you please be my fact checker? What do you mean deflection? Please explain.
Like, actually, we can also put it as an avoidance.
Okay, deflection. I understand now.
Yeah. I've been avoiding to face these traumas. I've been avoiding to face my real state of life. Where I will not even talk about this situation. I was not the person that we can talk about the death of my mom. I was not the person that we can talk about that me growing up without knowing my father. It's a rare case. People never got to hear me speaking about that. So now that I'm speaking about it, it is because I'm undergoing a healing process. So, answering your question, at first, I had thought I am happy, but in actual fact, I was not happy.
That's interesting. Where did you get the idea that you're happy? Is it because people were looking at you and be like, because I'm going to be honest, bro, like you inspire me.
Okay.
You inspire me. When I see you, I see like an example. If I was growing up as a boy, as someone that I had no one to look up to, I would probably be looking up to people like you when I see them on podcasts like this, or maybe on Facebook. So I'm pretty sure as I'm here, there's a young boy who look at you is like, oh, this guy is actually living the life that I want to live. So where did you get the idea that you were happy? Is it people reflecting it on you, or it was like a complete intentional deception?
I had this thing that I need to appear a whole person in the public, even though I'm hating in secret. And that on its own took a lot from me. because I was not actually facing the demons that I should be facing, or the trauma that I was supposed to be facing, and dealing with, not just facing them, but dealing with them. Only now that I realize, actually, I was not a happy person. But I can tell you, now when you see me happy, I'm a happy person indeed. Because I used to hide behind a beautiful smile that I have. And I used to also use things that I like as a symbol of happiness, or to fuel my happiness. So I had to move from that point and being content with who I am. And also, people, when they see Mwekezi Limpani, they see that vibrant person, that good energy guy who's always speaking his mind, who's always motivating people. And what you are not talking about, it is more hurtful than the things that you are able to talk about. Things that you are not addressing, or that you are not able to speak about in the public space, or just speaking about them generally. The very same things are very hurtful compared to things that you can be able to speak about. So once you move from the public space, going to your space, you get to face them. That's where you get to face the real feeling. So it is very important, when you talk about happiness, you must be sure that you are content with everything before you can display a happy face.
Would you get a pressure from the display of the happy face? Like, that's not true. Would you get a pressure? Because okay, let me put a context into this question. If I see you're always happy, and I know that there are things that are bothering me, I'll always come to you, because it seems like you don't have problems. Seems like because I'm unhappy, like I can eat from your happiness. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, did you get some pressure that comes with that? Because people see you like that, they now coming to you and telling you about their problems, and probably you like, if you only you knew mine.
Yeah, and it's a situation that I was not even aware of. Up until this other time, I meet this guy and say, Chief, you seem to be always happy, always smiling, always laughing, and everything. And that is the reason why I'm here. That is the reason why I became your friend. I was like, okay, but when they get to know me closer, they get to see that this person is having these problems. This person is suffering from traumatic experiences. So, and when they realize, it's somehow late, that because they have taken a lot for my energy. And sometimes you get to a position whereby you are even scared to disclose, because you think people will just move away from you.
I want to reflect on this. Like I said when I started the question, that I realized that many people that are doing well, in the community, there is something sort of dark, but it doesn't necessarily means like the results are also dark. Like, there's something. I remember, I forgot who was saying this, but someone once called it a toxic fuel.
Okay.
That we see you going, like we see you working nonstop. Kanti, it's this fuel that keeps you awake, because you're afraid, if I can rest, all these thoughts are gonna come. So I should be in the street, I should be doing something. And I've seen it with me, because I also have my own childhood trauma. So with me, when I blend it, when I blend these two, like the trauma and the work, always working, making progress in my own things, wanting to impact people in a certain way, I ended up believing that I didn't have those traumas. The only place that I saw these traumas coming back to me was from actually my partners or my girlfriends. I would see it in my romantic relationship that actually this thing is still there's still something wrong with you. But other than that, I wouldn't say it. I'd consider myself as just a fine person, but only when I reflect with probably my girlfriend or the girlfriend that I would be with in that moment. That's when I will see that, oh my boy, you haven't actually healed this thing, right? How do you survive in this situation? How do you when some like I hear now you saying like you're in a better place, or you can be in a better place. But for someone who's starting the point that you started, where now you have to put on this mask of happiness, how would you say like they survive? Because you look at situation of Ricky Rick.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, bro. I'm like, the bro like took his life, but he's got everything that we're working for.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And maybe there's someone who's gonna go through that thing, and probably you could have taken your life too, but you are here today. I believe you will be here tomorrow. What's your message to the progress that you make every day? Like, what did you tell yourself, and what do you tell yourself in times like that when you have to put a happy face until you become okay?
You know, one of the decisions that I made then was, Limpani, you are not what you are going through. That was my point of departure. And number two, these things are happening around you, not to you. Those are the circumstances around you. And you are able to deal with situations when you are not emotionally attached to them. So there was a point in my life where I had to detach my emotions from things. To a point that I thought even to myself that maybe I'm a cruel person. I had to detach from the feeling of growing up without a father so that I can be able to deal with the situation that I was supposed to be dealing with that concerns my father. So I had to detach myself from so many things so that I can be able to deal with them. So it is very important to be able to move to that point where you are able to detach yourself from things that are happening around you so that you can be able to deal with them. So, and I had to prioritize professional help. I had to, this one time, I was at work and I had a shutdown. At that very moment, I knew that whatever that I'm experiencing is very dangerous. And I had to take a call, and then I called the psychologist. That's where my journey started, my healing journey started. It was around January this year.
Yeah, no, congratulations for taking that call process, because yeah, it has helped me a lot. A person who mentored me or who guided me in writing this book, Art of Progress, she once said something to me. She said, you know, Sive, I've written all this. She's got multiple books, by the way, I think 4, if not 5. She says to me, you know, I've written all these books. I've been on television interviews, radio interviews. Albako Musimo, if you're watching this, I really, really appreciate you, my sister. And thank you so much for the contribution to actually having me finish this book. So she said, I appreciate, because I would ask this question, because I was very aware of this, right? That in all these good things that are glorified, that are appreciated by the community, are you happy, right? So I asked that question. It was not even about happiness for her. It was about, are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need some help? Can I help you with anything? And she said, I really appreciate that. And because now I can tell you if I'm not okay. And she's like, there's something about our community. When they see the hero, they forget the human part of the hero.
Yeah, true.
Do you understand? So I'm glad that we're actually having this conversation, because the same omission of this conversation is what discourage someone who's out there who want to be like you. It's like, I cannot be Limpani feeling this way. Probably Limpani never felt this way, and they don't feel this way. So I appreciate this conversation for that reason.
Yeah.
That it shows the human side of you, right? I love watching superhero movies. I saw the same thing about Batman. I don't know if you know the movie where Batman, what's the name? Dark Knight Rises. If you know the movie, this guy with I think he's the first guy to beat Batman like that. I wanna remember his name. Bane. Do you
Okay.
know? Do you know
I
Bane?
don't know the
He's got a
movie.
mask. Yeah. Like, but if it's an interesting movie, we've always seen Batman, like, excuse my language, kicking ass, doing all this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in this movie, bro, he got beaten so tough. I was afraid that guy is gonna die, and Bane is literally gonna own the movie as a hero. So, but what I liked about that movie, when Batman came over, I was like, oh, he's a human too.
Yeah.
He get beaten too. You know, so that's what I appreciate about this conversation.
Yeah.
I wanna take a step back.
Okay, no problem.
If you had to choose a moment that you have lived in, and a moment that you can create for yourself, where you have a mother, you have a dad, and I know death is inevitable, where you have a mother, you have a dad at the age of grade 7, and maybe your mother passed away like she did, and your father continued to be with you in all times, whether he is with other women, but you're still there with him, showing you love, showing you care.
Yeah.
Which life would you have appreciated more, or do you think it would have treated you better or make you better emotionally? Is it the life where you grow up with grandma, who have to pay price twice for everything in terms of effort, show you love twice, and uncles show you like everything twice? Or is the life where, like, the situation of your mother happened, but your father never leave you? He's always there with you. When you need something, you're able to contact him and all that. Which situation that was going to be better for you? You would have chosen. It's a hypothetical question, but I'm thinking there's something around it.
What I would choose is a situation where I have both my mother and my father. Even though the situation of me losing my mom happens. Because I feel that it is very important for a child to know and to feel the love of their parents. And I know it is something that I never got a chance to get, or maybe I'm just responding from a diversity point of view. But with what I've seen through my uncle, is that a well-raised child actually needs support from both parents. Actually needs love from both parents. I have seen it. I have seen children of my uncles, how they are and how they perceive life and how they see things. It's because of that kind of love that they experience. So I'm convinced, and I best believe that it is very important for a child to grow from a home full of love from the parents.
I'm asking this question because there was a time I was listening to a show. This lady's topic was can a child grow up without his father? Or can a child grow up without the mother? So many people called on that show, and they were crying. Most of them, like, they were crying. It's like, I want to be there for my child, but I'm not allowed to see my child. I want to be there, especially guys. I want to show love to my child. There's something that happened between me and the mother, but I was never allowed to have access to my child again. So there are many people that are actually going through that situation. And that was to actually figure out if how does it sit to your child,
yeah.
you know? How does it sit to your child? So I think that statement can just bring a consideration or make someone be considerate when they think of depriving the parent and access to a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? However, given this situation that you've been through, and I wish you a very successful healing process. I hope you have it in mind that it takes time. Given the situation or the hand that life dealt to you with, you still managed to become this person that impacted us. Give us a courage. When my friend started his seminar, which you invited to speak at yesterday, he got an inspiration from you. You know, he got an inspiration from you, and your influence is evident in the community.
Yeah.
You understand? I told you that when I was in the US, you remember we were speaking at this school.
Yeah.
And I had taken a video. My phone had Wi-Fi problems that I couldn't send you the video, and I couldn't buy the SIM card because the SIM card was 1,000 Rand in the US. And I was like, I'm not paying that. So, but it was $50.
Yeah.
But I converted. I'm like, I'm not paying that. But what happened is I lived for about a month being like listening to your video. Because I'm the one who shot it.
Yeah.
When I go to the shower, because that phone doesn't have a Wi-Fi, every morning when I wake up, I want to listen to a positive message. So I didn't have a choice of any other options. However, I appreciated the fact that I was under your voice because you're speaking the same things that I like to listen to in the morning. You know, you're speaking about the power of the dream. The person in the dream should actually dictate how the current person lives. So that was a beautiful message that gave me hope in some way, in so much. It played a huge role, you understand? And I'm not the only one that appreciates you in the community. You are so much appreciated. So I'm saying the life gave you it gave you like the platter the way it did, but you managed to rise to this point.
Yeah.
And it was because of the power of your mind.
Yeah. True.
Let's get to that. When do things start now taking a different direction in your mind? I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I've once had something which I became an advocate for, that the reality that we all see is based on who's seeing it. Like, reality is only reality based on how you perceive it.
Yes.
You understand? There are people that experience life the way you did, but they ended it in a different way.
Yeah.
For you, the power of your mind took you to this direction where you and I meet and sit like this.
Yeah.
Where I now have to ask you, where you now ask for interviews, where you have to speak in events and all that. How did this science take place for you? When do the mind start being powerful, and how does it take power? I know that you mentioned like your uncle was your role model and is still your role model. And I saw some post as well that when you were in an accident, he will be the first person that you called, if I read it right.
Yeah.
But where does the science or the art of you being at this level starts? How does it start?
You know, apart from everything that I'm going through and that I went through, or whatever that is happening in my life, I believe that actually, let me start it from here. In 2021, I've been praying because I wanted to be in the public speaking space. But I didn't know how, and I didn't know what I would be advocating for. So one of the things that I had to decide on is, who do I want to become? That's where everything started to shift, because then actually it was my first year of working, and as a young person, first year of working, you get a salary every month. It does wonders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never get used to such a huge amount of money coming to you. Actually, I had worked for like something like 2 months in a row without payment, so you can just imagine.
Mm.
So I started doing things, and I can publicly say it. I used to be, then before 2020, I was I don't know how to put it, but I was a church guy.
Mm.
Always at church every Sunday. Actually, every week I would say so, because I spent much of my time at church. Now in 2020, you start working, and then you start to experience life that you can only dream of when you're at school. And then I started doing things, going out a lot, traveling a lot, and everything. In that process, I had lost who I want to become, or whom that I always dream of, because now the lifestyle on its own. You get my point. So in 2021, I had to go back and pray and say, I want to be this thing, but I don't know how I'm going to go about it. So from that prayer mode, I had to decide on who I want to become.
Wait, I want to hold you there. There's a question that I remember I wanted to ask you, which is still in that line. Bro, when does your relationship with God start? Have you always been prayerful?
It started in 2015. 2015, when I was doing grade 12.
2015.
2015.
Okay.
But
when do you find your feet in gospel? Like, you become strong, that in 2021 you would start praying. Which year? Because when, I don't know if it happened the same for you, when you start your relationship with God, there will still be skepticism.
Yeah.
And you finally believe, no matter what, no matter this person says what.
Yeah.
When, along which years it happens for you. So you start your relationship, or your relationship gets activated with God in 2015. And when does he become your everything? Is it in the same year, or is it along the years?
I don't want to lie to you. From 2015 up until 2021, yes, I was that person going to church and everything. But the intensity or intensive relationship that I had with God started in 2022.
Okay.
And I have always been prayerful then.
Okay.
But I don't want to lie, say the relationship was intensive. But in 2022, I had to seek more of him.
Okay.
And I had to go closer to him. Now it's no longer a prayer of saying, I want this, I want that. It's a prayer of saying, I want to know more of you.
Okay.
I want the relationship with you. I want the son and father relationship with you.
Okay. Thank you so much. You can go back to when you were praying for what you want to become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I started speaking at church. That's where I started speaking. It was around 2018 when we had youth conferences. And I would put myself there and say, I'm the speaker of the day as a motivational speaker. That's how it started. And then I did it. I did it in 2018. I did it in 2019. And then 2020 I was away. And then we didn't have that conference. So I spoke twice at my church. Twice. So, but it was ambition to say, I just want to be a motivational speaker, because yeah, I believe that I can speak well. I can speak to people, and people will always tell me that, your words carries some weight. So maybe if you can use them to actually speak to people, but I didn't realize that. I was merely a young man, just interacting with people, having conversations with people. But I never thought that whatsoever that I say can actually change someone's life. You get. So in 2018, I did that with church, and then 2020 there was a pause because now Limpani that day what travel. You get, and then Limpani is all over. You get, and he's now going out a lot. He's now friends, people, and whatsoever. So you find there was that pause. But I've been praying for this thing, and I wanted to host something in Botshabelo so bad. And because I wanted to host it so bad, I started to host a street bash. I wanted to have something happening in Botshabelo so bad that I encouraged my friends to host a street bash. And then the street bash went for 2 years. And Kamon Morapedi, when I'm speaking at church in 2018, in September we're having a street bash. In 2019 we're having a street bash. But later I realized that this is not who I am. I'm doing this thing, but this is not who I am.
Your character doesn't align with
my character doesn't align with this thing. My energy was just redirected because I think should I had that opportunity to host Power of Mind in 2018, or maybe I had that thought of hosting Power of Mind instead of hosting Street Bash, I think we could have made a very much great progress in terms, because the energy